And you're live.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Apologies for being a little bit late. That was my fault. There was a lot of traffic on the way. My name is Temi, and this is Annotated, the place where Black and African stories can live outside of the margins, figuratively and quite literally as well. So, as always, we are here to talk all things my favorite books. I've been introducing you to some amazing people in the book industry, publishing industry, as well as some fantastic authors. And today is no different. We have an amazing guest who I'll introduce shortly. But as I've been explaining as well over the weeks, is that the UK government has expressed that there has been a decline in people reading for fun and pleasure. So I want to get us reading for fun. And in doing so, I've been introducing you to some of my favorite books. I hope you've been enjoying them. I hope you have purchased some of them. I hope you have added some of them to your recommended reading list and so forth. Now, today isn't any different. We have a fantastic guest. She has written 2 of my favorite books. I read one and then I just knew at that moment that I would have to read everything that she had written, and so I did. So I would like to introduce you to Lola Jaye. She is a London-born author, registered psychotherapist, and speaker of Nigerian heritage. She has written several novels, a self-help book, and works to explore in her writing identity, race, and survival through the lens of Black British history. The Attic Child was nominated for the Jalak Prize and shortlisted for the Diverse Book Awards. So we would like to welcome Lola Jaye. Woo! Welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm glad that you're here. How has your day been today?
It's good. The sun's out, so I can't complain.
Yes. It is a nice day. It's been a nice couple of light days. We're getting into summer.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope. I think it's still spring, but we're getting into the warmer days. And so I'm looking forward to that. But a lot has been going on, and I would like to get straight into it.
Let's do it.
So, like I said, you have written 2 of my favorite books. One of them is The Attic Child, which is here. I read this book, and I was just like, you know, when you read and it takes you into a completely different world, like that is how I felt when I read The Attic Child. And then I was like, oh, I need to read more. And I think at the time when I read it, the manual for good wives, which is this one here, was due to come out. And I was like, oh, I just had to read this. But when I read the title, the manual for good wives, I was like, I do not need to read a book about how to be a good wife. But little did I know what was to come. So when we speak about your books, The Attic Child and both the Manual for Good Wife, they're both like a dual POV perspective. And I feel like you've really mastered that. And The Attic Child tells a story of a young boy who was taken away from his home in Congo, taken away by a British man and brought all the way to the UK to be a companion of some sort. And he's, you know, lives his life here. And then the dual kind of POV point of view is that there is another lady who happens to grow up later in the same house, and they both have a shared experience of spending time in this attic. But for those people who haven't read the book yet, where did you get this inspiration? Because I think the story is quite interesting of where you got the story about a young boy who was brought to the UK. So let everybody know about that, please.
Okay, I went to a gallery, an art gallery, and the exhibition was Black People in the Victorian Era.
Yes.
And I thought, this is for me, because everyone always says that Black people only arrived here during Empire Windrush. It's not true. We've been here for a very long time.
Yes.
So it was great looking at the photos. And one particular photo was of a little boy. And he was dressed as a British person, but he was clearly African. And some of the photos were him with this older white man. And I thought, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I Googled him and I found out that he died at the age of 12 and his name was Ndugu Mahali and he was born in Tanzania.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I need to write about this child. But what could you write about someone who died at 12?
Yeah.
So my whole what if then was, what if he'd been allowed to live? What could have happened? And that was my starting point for the attic child.
And so with this story, it's really like a history lesson, really.
Yes.
And in the introduction, I spoke about you being a psychotherapist. Are you a psychotherapist or are you a historian? Which one? And how do you, because you're really good, a bit of both, because you're really good at this history stuff. You took this one photograph and you created this whole story and this whole narrative that connected so well with people. And what was it about this boy's picture that was so striking that you felt like his story had to be told?
Because in the pictures, he's never smiling. And I know the pictures that's taken in those days, you're not supposed to smile, but there was something else in his expression. And I thought, what is in this child's mind? He's been taken from his homeland, taken from his parents, his siblings, his culture, and brought to England. And let's face it, if racism is bad now, what was it like, in those days? And so I wanted to kind of highlight, what he may have gone through coming here in the Victorian times, Edwardian times, what that would have been like for him. And I just got that just by looking at his face.
Yes.
You can interpret whatever you want from one picture, right? My interpretation was he misses his mum.
Yes.
And that was it. That was my starting point.
That is so... It's like, this is a fantastic read. I'm trying not to give spoilers because I want, for those who haven't read it, to go on the journey that I went on when I read this book. Now... I'm trying to talk about both of these books at the same time. So there's also the Manual for Good Wives, which is also set in the Victorian England. It features a lady called Temi who came like me.
Namesake.
I must say, books that feature characters that with the name Temi, those books always bang. So I would recommend them. But this is actually a fantastic book. So in this one, this features a lady called Temi who actually came from royalty and ends up in the UK. So why was it important for you to show that side?
Yes, I knew I wanted to write about a black woman in the Victorian era, but every time you think about a black woman in that time, she's either in servitude or she's a runaway slave or something like that. I wanted to make sure that, A, she was a princess and she knew she was a princess.
Yes.
And that title was not stripped from her when she came to England. She knew who she was. I was very deliberate when I was writing her. I knew that I wanted her to have a maid.
Yes.
And she'd have a white maid.
Yes, she did.
Very deliberate.
Yeah, and I think in both of your stories, you've done really well. And even though it explores themes of like less desirable times and times where it was very difficult for black people in the UK, you have done really well in empowering these black characters, even though they have gone through trying times.
Yeah.
It's almost triumphant at the end for both of those. And those are things that we don't usually get to see within black literature. Sometimes they can be very traumatic, especially if we're looking at historical fiction.
Yes.
It can be a very traumatic time, and we almost never get to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But even though these are sad books, sometimes to a degree, they cover a lot of sad themes, but you get to the end of both books and you're like, you take a breath of like fresh air. It might not be the ending that you would have hoped for, but it is a deserving ending for the characters. And I think, how does your work as a psychotherapist kind of like inform how you write and how you portray black characters?
Yeah, because as a therapist, I work with trauma and that's what I specialize in. But when I write a book, although I'm going to include some trauma in it, I'm not going to write trauma porn.
Yes.
I think we have enough. And I'm not saying anything bad about those books. We need to know history. Yeah. History should not be erased. But I'm going to put some trauma in there, but I'm going to make sure they come out fighting and I'm going to make sure that they come out happy. And especially with writing the black woman character, yes, Temi is strong, but she also has a soft side.
Yes.
So none of this strong black woman trope for me. She's going to have to be strong in some aspects of her life, but she's very soft, and there is a man there that recognizes her softness.
Yes.
So that was all very deliberate. When I'm writing these things, I'm very deliberate of how I make this come across, because I know I have a responsibility. I shouldn't have a responsibility, because as a white writer, you just write what you want.
Yes.
So I don't like having that responsibility, but I recognize it and I take it very seriously.
That's amazing. Let me ask, like, who are some of the women that inspire you? Some of the strong black women, beautiful women that inspire you to create such strong, powerful characters in your book?
You mean women from that era or just in general?
In your personal life,
In my
maybe.
personal life, the matriarchs of the
Yes.
family, the aunties, the mothers, the friends.
Yes.
We go through a lot.
Yeah.
Women go through a lot, and yet we're still standing, you know? But I know this is kind of narrative about black women always having to be strong. And we do. But you know what? We also have another side. We're not a monolith. We have another side to us. We're soft, dainty flowers.
Yes.
You know?
And why I want you to read some of the some things from the Manual of Good Wife, but I want to ask before we do that, why is it important as a community to understand that we have these different sides to us? As in, what if there is any damage to be done by only seeing us as the strong black woman?
I think it's easy for society to paint us that way, isn't it? That we're just strong black women, we're not soft, because then you can hurt us.
Yes.
And we're strong and we can deal with it. We see it in healthcare, we see it in mental health. As a black woman, you're 5 times more likely to die in childbirth. Horrible statistic, and that's to do with pain relief. She's strong, okay? It's a crazy example, but there are lesser examples.
Yeah.
So I think it then becomes dangerous when it comes detrimental to our lives. So I think it's important that we're seen in another way as well. We're soft. We feel pain. We love.
Yes.
And you know what? We want to be loved as well. That's really important.
And we deserve to be as well.
Absolutely.
I love that. So I know there are people watching at home. You can get involved with commenting and engaging with us. We would love to hear from you. The question, seeing as the book that you're going to read from is called The Manual of Good Wives, the question is, what is a good wife anyway? And so in this book, the fantastic thing about this book is that each of the chapter kind of has a tip or kind of like a guide on what is a good wife. So I wanted you to just read a couple of the examples within this book, and let's hear what the community has to say about this.
And before I do, let me preface it by saying, I know there's probably some Bridgerton fans here.
Yes.
So the person that wrote these tips is almost like a Lady Whistledown character. Not that I've seen Bridgerton, but I'm told that she's like that. Remember, this is 1893. And she's writing this, okay?
So these views are not your views. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm going to let you know they're not my views. So one of the things she advises women who want to keep their husbands is, do not show you are more well-read than your husband. He already knows and does not wish to be reminded of it. And that is 1893. And remember, when I got these pieces of advice, I got them based on real books that came out at that time. Another one is, your husband is always right, even when the opposite is true. And another one is, always put your husband's needs before your own. Now, yes, tongue in cheek, but they came from real advice columns that I pulled them from. And I think the common theme here is, put your husband first, your mental health doesn't matter, and get on with it, or become a spinster. And remember, in those days, I know that right now, a lot of women embracing singledom, right?
Yes.
And that is great. But in those days, if you were single, you're not going to eat unless you come from a very rich family, or you can be a teacher perhaps, or a governess. But this was a way of having food, having a home. So they were desperate for that. So they're more likely to do these things. Whereas now it's like, excuse me?
Really? So this is interesting. And I wanted to get your sort of point of view as a psychotherapist, because unless you've been living under a rock, for example, there's been this whole narrative going on about two celebrities, a female and a male. One's like, I don't know, an NBA player, I think, and one is the male is an NBA player, and the woman is an artist, like she sings or raps or type of thing. And so they've broken up, and this whole thing has caused like so much discourse on the internet. Now, a lot of the things that I've been hearing is the guy, even though he's a successful NBA player, he's got with her knowing like her personality is out there. She's boisterous. Some people would say she's like maybe known for being a bit promiscuous or whatever, but he got with her knowing her status and whatever. And then others are saying that, you know, well, how could she expect for a guy of his status to stay with him, knowing based on her promiscuity or her behavior and stuff like this. So this has drawn out a lot of conversation to do with, you know, that kind of like traditional woman, traditional man discourse. Okay. So I wanted to know your opinion. So let's go with some of these examples that you used today. So from your perspective and from your professional perspective, a woman should never let a man know that he's wrong. What would you say? Like, what would you advise a client if she comes into your office and she sits across from you and she's like, my husband is always wrong. He's wrong about a lot of things, but he doesn't ever want me to tell him that he's wrong. If I tell him that he's wrong, he's like, you know, a traditional woman shouldn't be speaking up. What would be your modern day advice to that type of person?
I think it'll be important to look at the origin of that relationship, because I think you've kind of brought on some really good points in your earlier example. What if he met her knowing that she's opinionated? So basically the question is, did he meet her knowing she was that way and perhaps said, this is what I find attractive, but deep down, he doesn't want that. He wants a yes woman. Or because she wanted to be with him, did she play to what she thought he wanted from her? Because some people can be guilty of that. You know, sometimes you meet the representative on those first few dates.
Yes.
You know, so let me mold myself to be who I think he wants me to be. So I'd want to explore which one of those was it.
Let's say, for example, he met her like that. Because I feel like, speaking for all the women out there, if I may, I feel like women present themselves, their honest, true self. So let's imagine that she's presented her true, honest self. And so he's seen her bubbly, he's seen her stand up for herself and answer back where she feels appropriate.
So he knew what he was getting, just like your example earlier.
Yeah.
So really, if I'm in a consultation with this person, it'll be less about him, it'll be about her. It's about, what do you want for this phase of your life?
Okay.
You know, do you want to, you know, be muted, or do you want to be your true self? And we'd talk about that and talk about maybe her confidence. Because if she's in that relationship and she's in that, let's look at her confidence. Is her self-esteem? Where is that? It's about building her up so then that she will make the decision whether to leave or not. Because I would never tell somebody to leave a relationship.
Yeah.
It has to come from them. And it's about empowering them to do that. And that's looking at self-esteem and reminding them of who they are.
Okay. So is it really possible then, in your opinion, or for like, I don't know if you've come across examples like this, where you have two kind of polarizing personalities, someone who's maybe a bit chill, and then you have a man that's maybe chill, and then you have a woman who is out there and boisterous. Let's say one might describe the woman as portraying like a masculine energy.
Oh, yes.
Do you think that those dynamics can work? And if so, what kind of like tips can you give?
Oh, that's a big question.
Loaded.
I mean, of course they can work. You know the old adage, opposites attract, right? Again, it's about what you're looking for in a relationship. I know that when you and I were talking earlier, we were talking about these words that are bounded about these days, about being a simp and being that. So I can't talk for all women and I can't talk for all men. But you know what? It's great when a black man can be vulnerable.
Yes.
He's not a simp. He's a human being and he's multifaceted. So a man being vulnerable, that could be sexy to a lot of women.
Yeah.
You know? If someone was going to say that, you being vulnerable is a bit girly for me, we need to talk about what you see as girly and what you and why you think that these roles don't fit for a man. So it's about looking at the individual, how they've been raised.
Yes.
You know, sometimes people have been raised with a father that is a certain way and they expect their partner to be that way.
Yeah.
So there is no one size fits all, I'm afraid.
So in this book, when you've read out those examples and that kind of advice that was actually given in real life, kind of like columns in the newspaper and stuff at that time, is there something, because people be like, oh, back in the day, my grandmother would never. And, they kind of glamorize this kind of lifestyle.
They do glamorize.
Do
Yes.
you think there's still a place for that kind of way of thinking in today's society?
No. I was once told by somebody that my mother, she ran an entire business, had a job and had 6 kids, raised them, and she was fine. And this was in the 50s. And I thought, I wonder if we had a psych evaluation with her, if she was fine. I wonder if we spoke with her that she would tell us she was fine. But it was glamorized. Of course, the stiff upper lip, they were fine, inverted commas, but were they? That's a lot to take on.
Yeah.
And remember, things like postnatal depression was not a thing then. So they could have been suffering with these things. And there was no label for it. And more importantly, there was no help for it. So I would definitely disagree.
Really? So do you have in your role, because in your role as a psychotherapist, do you speak with men and women?
Yes.
Okay. And so how do you have that kind of conversation with men today? Because I think it's really important that sometimes, I don't know what's happened, but we live in like a society where at the moment it seems like men feel like women aren't like how they used to be. They're not built like how they were back in the day. But how would you have that conversation to open up that type of thinking to a more modern approach?
Again, I wouldn't open up. It's what they bring to me. But I would say I would never want to put my own ideals on what someone wants out of a relationship. So if there's 2 people and they want to have a traditional setup where husband goes to work, pays all the bills, mummy stays at home, looks after the kids, that's fine, But I think sometimes men get it twisted a bit.
Yeah.
So I've heard people say, and again, I want to preface this as saying that this is not my clients. I would never speak about my clients on any forum. This is just friends and people in general.
And people on the internet.
Yeah. People in general.
Yes.
But I've spoken to a man that said, I want a traditional submissive wife. Fine. I'll go out to work. She will cook and clean and do everything. Does she still have to work? Yes.
Oh.
But I'll pay the bills 60-40 because I'm the man. I said, but so you want her to look after the children, cook and clean, look after you, and still go to work for a full-time job. So you can't have it both ways, mate.
No, you can't. And I think that one of the things that's really powerful about Temi in the book is that when it came to, she was a traditional wife, before she came to the UK. She was someone that followed her man and stood by her man in terms of what he wanted to do and the dreams that he had. But when it came to a time where she had to stand up and kind of fend for herself, she was also able to do that. And I think that is such a powerful thing that women are able to do. And I think you spoke about being submissive, and when we spoke earlier, you said, I don't know if men actually know what the term submissive means.
Some don't.
So yes, in your definition, what does that look like, submission?
Ooh. Okay, I'm not going to do a definition, but I will say that submission doesn't have to. I have to be careful what I say. I'm lying here, but submission doesn't always have to be a bad thing. But it depends what you mean by that.
Yeah.
If you mean that you're going to tell me what to do and everything, you're going to make all the decisions. Well, no, there has to be some kind of partnership.
Yeah.
But also there has to be someone that makes the final decision. And if you decide that that's going to be the man in a relationship, fine, whatever works for you, because someone does have to make the final decision.
Yeah.
So that means you discuss it, but then maybe he or she, there's so many different dynamics of relationships. We can't just say it's heterosexual, right?
Yes.
So whoever is the dominant, okay, they make the final decision. It might be something like, where's our kid going to go to school? Well, I think she should go here. But he or she will make the final decision. So it depends.
I understand that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and is it that, so whoever is submitting means submitting to the person who's going to submitting to the final decision, basically. And that, it could change, isn't it?
It can change. And if you're going to be submissive or use the word submission, there always has to be respect. This is not about someone having power over somebody else and reducing them. That's when it gets a bit twisted, There are many women that will be quite happy to submit to their husbands. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't, do what works for you. That's the most important thing. But these discussions must happen. So if you are going to get married, if you are going to go into a civil partnership or live together, have these discussions along with the money discussions. So important. Yes. But have these discussions about, are we going to have this type of relationship? If a man bounds about this word, oh, you're going to be submissive. So what does that mean to you? Really talk it through.
Like? Yeah.
What does it look like? Because I think it looks like different things for different people, and that's okay.
And I think that it was, I remembered that where in the Attic Child,
No, I just got another thing that just came to my head.
Go for it, go for it.
Yeah, I just want to kind of carry on the submission thing. Sometimes there are people, and I'm not generalizing here, there are women that might say, I do want to be submissive, but I can't because you don't make me feel safe enough to do that. Mm-hmm. And that is really important. If you find someone that makes you feel safe enough to just, that's gold.
Yes.
And that's where the softness comes into it. You're this strong black woman, but you know what? That's tiring. I want to be soft sometimes. I want to just give it over to you. And that's really, but she has to feel safe enough to do that.
Yeah.
I know we're focusing on heterosexual here, but you know, there are other forms of couples.
Yes.
But I'm just saying it just to be general. She needs to feel safe enough to do that. If she doesn't feel safe enough, she's going to take the reins.
Yes.
Because that's all she's known. Especially if someone's been single for a long time. They've had to do everything by themselves. If you're going to now come along, let her feel safe. And then she will submit.
Yes.
That bloody word again. Sorry to say that.
And I think also as well, like, I think a person is happy to submit if they trust that the person who is going to have the final say or make the decision or lead in this scenario is competent
it's about
and
feeling
capable.
Safe, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to speak about where we spoke about the Attic Child and the inspiration for that. I wanted to talk about the inspiration for Temi in the Manual for Good Wives, because when I've spoken to you before, with Blacklisted Book Club, you explained that history of finding out that you have royal members of your family. So let's talk a little bit about that.
My grandmother, who I never met, she was a princess, and I'd say the first quarter of the book is true to life, unfortunately. So without giving spoilers away, it's quite harrowing. It's a forced marriage. She's a child. That all happened in Nigeria. And so because I'd heard about this from our oral histories, oral histories in Africans is the thing. So because I'd heard it over the years, I thought I need to put this down. Because at one point, people that are telling the stories, unfortunately, they die. So we need to have them recorded somewhere. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm a writer. Let me do this.
Yes.
And so it was such a wonderful moment for me to put their names in the book, in the foreword. So they kind of live on, because they died a very long time ago. And so that was the inspiration. But I also wanted to show that black women were here, and black men, in the Victorian era, and some of them had money and status and power. And I made sure that I researched all of them, and they existed.
And I think it's so powerful. I would recommend that everybody goes and reads it, because it's inspiring. Like, it lets you know about sort of legacy and inheritance and all of these kind of things. And it's a reminder that as black people, we should be doing more in terms of securing our sort of legacies and our histories, and putting foundations and creating roots so that people will know in however many years' time that we were here, and in whatever capacity that looks like. And we've seen this in the Attic Child with that kind of like sort of secrets that are revealed over the years in this same house. And we also see that in the Manual of Good Wives at the end, in terms of like what she was able to leave for those that came after her. And in the morning here at the New Black, there's a podcast that happens in the morning called The Day After, and that's every morning. And this morning they were talking about legacy and what that looks like, and children. And so usually at the end of each episode of Annotated, I read a story that I've written about Jacob and Tamar. They have something's going on between those two. But today I won't be reading that. I'm going to read something else that was in that I wrote some time ago. It's a short little poem, but it reminded me of like legacy based off of these two books and the conversation that was had earlier today in regards to legacy. So I wanted to speak to you about the fact that you have a day job and as a
Mm-hmm.
psychotherapist, but you're also a writer. You've written not only these 2 novels, you've written some other stories, and you've also written in articles and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like this. So how are you balancing that? And I I'm going to just throw in that question of, can women have it all type of thing? Because you seem to be doing it all at the moment.
I don't know about that. I don't know about the whole having it all question, but I think with everything you do, place yourself first.
Yes.
As selfish as that sounds,
Yes.
okay? Put yourself, and this is not, people, they have a religion, they have a, God, higher power. I'm not saying that's separate. I'm talking about in your day-to-day life, put yourself first in the sense of your mental health.
Yes.
Don't overdo things. Just, if you need to not do something, then just don't do it. I think there's this thing called the art of saying no. I love writing about that.
Yes.
Because sometimes, especially as women, we don't know how to say no. We've got to do everything.
Yeah.
And I saw something actually online yesterday where someone, a palliative care nurse in America, as a palliative care, if someone is dying, she'll look after them. And she said that the black women that she would speak to, they would say how they'd done too much, and that was their regret. They'd all done too much. And there's all this narrative about if you don't have children, you're just going to be alone and da-da-da. But she said that these women had kids.
Yeah.
She'd done too much. They hardly got any visitors.
Yeah.
But there was this thing about, I just wish I hadn't done so much. And that really stayed with me because it's fine to obviously put your family, put their well-being there, but you're the machine. So if you don't put yourself first, and if you break down, then what is going to happen to all those people that you are looking after?
Okay, and so how do you practice that in terms of writing, work, and all the other things?
Oh, I know how to say no.
Really, with your deadlines and everything?
Oh no, well, deadlines, you can be flexible. I have a chronic illness, so sometimes I just can't. Okay, and
do you mind sharing what this illness is, or you don't?
I'm sorry?
Do you mind sharing what the chronic illness is, or how it affects? Is it like
I'm tired a lot of the times.
Yes.
I'm very tired. So sometimes if I'm really tired, I have to bin the day.
Yeah.
I can't do it. So it's about it's about being at peace with that.
Yeah.
That you can't do everything.
Yes.
And it's okay. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, I need to do this. But you know what? I can't.
Yeah.
And that's all right. And so with a different example, what if you're just tired that day? You've had a late night.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Then don't. We seem to push ourselves.
Yes.
And, in our communities, high blood pressure.
Yes.
All these things. Don't give it any ammunition.
Yeah.
Rest.
I love that. I love that sort of advice in terms of self-care. And how does that work in terms of when you're working with like publishers and stuff like that? Are they accommodating for this chronic illness? Okay.
Yeah, I must say they are.
Yeah.
It took me ages to write this one.
Really?
Because I was ill during Manual for Good Wives, so it came out, I think, a year later than it was supposed to.
Well worth the wait, though. I'm sure they're happy with the results and the when you type in like Lola Jaye on Book Talk or Instagram or whatever, like Bookstagram.
Yeah.
A lot of people have read your book, and a lot of people have a lot of your books, and a lot of people have so many positive things to say. And it's so interesting as well how even though both of your books are very Black British kind of centered, over across the pond in the Americas, people really resonate with it too. And I think it's something about that, like that movement of people from their original place of birth and then bringing them over to these cold streets where they find that the pavements are not paved with gold.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. So I think that they're really able to relate to the stories that you've written.
Yeah, the Black migration.
Yes.
It's just there. And, and history is whitewashed.
Yes.
And so we need to start writing our own history books.
Yes.
Just like what you said about, somewhere like this,
Yes.
having things down. We have to tell the real history. When I was a kid, talk about Black history in school, we'd get like a couple of classes on Black history, all about slavery.
Yeah.
And I'm always saying now, no, slavery is not Black history. It's an interruption of Black history.
Yes, I love that.
So much that we've contributed to this world, and yet they just focus on slavery. Yes, we must talk about slavery, but we must also talk about the inventions that we've done. We must almost talk about so many other things that we've been a part of and are proud of.
I love that. And I wanted to ask, in terms of, with these books, because they're historical fiction, you do a lot of research into this. So what are some of your kind of like advice that you give in terms of how to do that and to do it well? Because there are some people that, you know, that they're aspiring writers. They might want to get into the process of writing. So how do you do that?
Yeah, with The Attic Child, that was extensive research. But, you know, it was during lockdown, so I had a lot of time on my hands.
Yes.
But let's just say I researched 100 pages of history, because we're talking about the genocide in the Congo.
Yes.
You know, up to 5 million, you know, Africans were killed by King Leopold or his orders. So I had to see lots of pictures. So unlike slavery, where there's not much pictorial evidence, I saw pictures of children with their limbs cut off. You know, it was awful. And so say I looked at 100 pages, one might end up in the book.
Yes.
I can't put everything in there because I'm not writing a book for school or for college. You do your own research afterwards.
Yes.
I don't think anyone wants to be preached when they're reading a story sometimes. Yeah. What the feedback I'm getting is people actually go and look it up.
Absolutely.
And that's what
100%.
I love about it. So I do a lot of research, but you're only going to put a bit in there.
Yeah. I think that is excellent. And I think that's the beauty of reading, because I'm trying to convince people that are not so into reading fiction that the amazing thing about fiction, especially the ones that I've been introducing our audience to, is that you can read them and actually apply the things that happen or that are happening in the book to things that are happening in real life.
Absolutely.
And I think in both of these books, it does give you enough that it piques your interest and you want to go and find out, like, oh, what is this based on? Or some of these characters are loosely based on real life people. So it's really good. So I'm going to give the people that are watching some homework to go and read The Attic Child and the Manual of Good Wife, the Manual for Good Wife, sorry. Go and read those by Lola OJ. Sorry, by OJ? Lola Jaye. Sorry, Lola OJ is my friend. Lola Jaye, sorry. And come back and we're going to have a chat about this. I want to know what you've learned from reading that and the things that stood out to you whilst reading. Also, like I've said, that people aren't... that's so funny. You're like, OJ. No, OJ is my friend. What I wanted to ask you is, if you had to convince anybody to read either one of these books for pleasure, how would you convince them?
Oh, well, if you want to... Well, The Attic Child is about two children locked in an attic a century apart.
Yes.
So if you want to read a little bit about what happened in the Congo...
Yes.
During that time, that will give you a flavour of that.
Yes. And the Manual for Good Wives. How would you convince?
Yeah. It will not teach you how to be a good wife. That comes from within. But if you want to see how bad women had it then,
yes,
but maybe see how not much has changed,
yes,
give it a go.
Yeah. And actually, Temi was a good wife, wasn't she? Or
Until
was
she did that thing. Which we're not going to talk about.
We're not going to talk about it. You have to read it and figure out, and then we'll come back and discuss. Okay, so I also wanted to ask, any updates on the next book?
The next book I'm writing? Well, it might be a little bit of a departure from historical fiction.
Oh, no!
I'll go back to it eventually, but for this one, it might be very contemporary.
Ooh,
it might be a little bit of time travel.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm experimenting and it's looking good.
So is it like a speculative fiction or is it contemporary?
It's contemporary, but there's a little bit of magic.
Ooh.
Sparkle. Yeah.
So when should we be expecting this?
Oh, no.
It's not ready yet?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
But you're working on it. You're writing it. You're in the process of writing it.
I might be.
Okay.
Let's just say the next book is probably not going to be historical fiction.
Oh, okay. So it's nice when we get a bit of like variety from author. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll have you back again.
I should have said it was romance. It's romance.
Okay,
romance.
so it's romance and it's time travel.
Yeah. Think about the time traveler's wife meets Bridget Jones.
Ooh.
But she's a woman of colour.
Oh, I love that. We need to, and is it going to be like spicy?
Probably not. I'm not good at that.
Really?
There was no spice in those books.
There wasn't, but you know, there's.
I'm gonna have to get someone else to write that bit for me. I'm too much of a prude. I'll get you to write that bit.
Oh my god! Oh yeah! You haven't heard my story. I think I should. I think I could be a consultant, but I think
a spice consultant.
Yeah, that should be a thing.
Yeah, because I'm too prudish. I am so prudish.
No, but you are a researcher, so we can like create some scenarios that you can do.
That sounds researching spice. Yeah, let's cut
some
taxi
market research.
Taxi for Temi.
Is that bad?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I feel like, okay, cool. I know somebody not too far away that would be able to give you some great advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the next room?
Maybe, perhaps.
Okay.
I don't know. He might just be an expert. Look, I don't know. We'll see. But I think that would be really, really good. I'm looking forward to reading that. Okay, so today Arsenal is playing. Mm-hmm. Do you support a football team?
I do not. I follow the World Cup and the Africa Cup of Nations and Euro.
And do you support Nigeria in the World Cup?
Absolutely. And if they lose, it'll be the next African team, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
That's like England as well.
Yeah.
I support England. Full of Africans.
Full of Africans is crazy. Yeah, that's true. Because I support Nigeria and then I'll support any other African country that's playing. But in the Euros and stuff, I like to support England.
Yep, definitely.
Saka plays for England and he's my number one star boy.
He's a wonderful human.
Someone says he's not a boy anymore. Star man doesn't really have this.
Star boy. No, he can still be star boy.
Yeah. Okay, so I know I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time because I know that people want to rush and go and watch Arsenal. Yeah, but let's go and let me close off by reading this poem that was inspired. I wrote it before, but I was inspired to read it today based on the conversation that we were having earlier. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Where is it? Bear with me, people. My batteries are always like dead. Okay. Oh my gosh. All right, cool. So like I said, this was inspired by the conversation that we were having earlier about legacy and all of that kind of stuff and what we want to leave in terms of like behind in terms of like our children and stuff like that. So I had written this some time ago and it's called I Wonder. So this is how it goes. I wonder if he knows that I still count his fingers and his toes, that he has made everything so much more pleasant, a gift ever present. Heaven sent, I wonder if he chose me or felt he got the short straw when God let him know how he would be conceived and the mother he was about to receive. I wonder if he knows that often I can't see what will come next, but his light, so honest and bright, provides the context, confirmation that we're on track and currently we're okay. I wonder if he knows the promise I've made to love him more each and every day. I do not take lightly the fact that it is my role to leave such an impact, to water the seed of a little baby boy and watch him grow into a strong and faithful man, a leader, someone's cause of joy. I wonder if he knows.
Oh, amen.
Thank you. Amen. Lovely. So next week we will get back to Temi and Jacob, but today I just thought we'll switch it up and do something a little bit different. And that was inspired, like I said, by the conversations that we had earlier. But I'm so honored to have had you sitting here today, Lola, Jaye. It was a pleasure and awesome. And we'll definitely get you back to speak about your upcoming book when it's due to come out. There have been people in the comments that have been commenting, and they've been saying we like spice, so we can sprinkle a little bit. No pressure, no pressure, no pressure. There's no pressure. I'm always here to help. If you need,
This conversation took a turn.
That's what life is about. But yes, so thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Look forward to reading your books. We spoke earlier, as all of our other guests have donated a book to our library. You will be doing so too, and we're so thankful for that. And thank you so much once again for coming.
Woo.
Thank you guys for joining. We will be back next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. And we look forward to Arsenal winning. All right. Good evening, guys. See you later. Bye.